Good morning, my students. How are you today? In this video, يا شباب, I'm going to explain and to talk about if clause type 2. In the first semester, I talked about if clause type 0 and if clause type 1. But in this semester, I'm going to talk and explain if clause type 2. When do we use if clause type 2 and how do we use if clause type 2? Now يا شباب, if clause type 2 we use the conditional sentences type 2 اللي هو if clause type 2 بحكي لك is used to talk about things which are unreal, not true or not possible in the present or the future, things which don't or won't happen. Or we use if clause type 2 to give someone late advice. خلينا الآن بهاي بعدين بنروح على الليت advice اللي هي in Arabic in our language نصيحة متأخرة. الآن if clause type 2 الفورمال if clause type 2 if plus subject plus past simple إذا أنا مع if clause section with the if clause part with type 2 with the second conditional you have to use past simple يعني verb 2. With the main clause or the result clause مع جزء النتيجة you have to use would plus base form of a verb. This is with affirmative. With negative use wouldn't plus base form of a verb. Okay يا شباب. Now يا شباب, as I told you, if plus past simple, this is if clause section with the main clause section subject plus would or wouldn't plus base form of a verb plus base form of a verb يعني فعل مجرد فعل ايش؟ مجرد. Okay. For example, if I were you, I would quit smoking. Quit means resign. اوكي يا شباب. فهون انا لو اجيت طلعت هالجمله if plus subject plus verb to where is a verb to of be. اوكي comma subject هذا المين clause with would plus base form of a verb. You can make shift between if a clause and the main clause يعني you can put the main clause at the beginning, then put the if clause. But in this case, you have to remove comma. Okay? For example, they would stay longer if they had more time. They would stay longer if they had more time. Okay, يا شباب? We put, or this sentence begins with the main clause. Okay, then we put the if clause, but you have to remove a comma. هاي انتبهوا لها الملاحظة. واضحة يا شباب؟ Up till now this is clear. الآن للليت advice بدي أعطيكم فكرة عنه وراح نشرحه بالتفصيل. الليت advice for example أنا باجي بحكي لك I did bad in the exam. طيب I did is a verb too. لذلك هاي الجملة simple past ماضي بسيط فشيء حدث. يعني we use the simple past to talk about something that started and finished at a specific time in the past. طيب بدك انت تيجي تنصحني بس هاي نصيحة هاي بنسميها late advice. النصيحة متأخرة خلص أنا ما زبطت بالامتحان. تحكي لي if I were you I would study hard. تحكي لي لو أنا كنت مكانك if I were you in Arabic مين يا شباب؟ لو أنا كنت مكانك if I were you I would study hard. if plus subject اللي هو I plus verb to where you هذا if clause المين clause subject I plus would plus base form of a verb اللي هو study hard. اوكي الآن يا شباب في أنا بحكي لك هنا sometimes it's possible to use should could or might in place of would. يعني we can use should could or might instead of would. For example هذا مع الاف clause type. type ايش يا شباب؟ type 2. بحكي لك if I had more free time I could travel around the world. If I had if subject verb 2 المين clause subject plus could plus base form of a verb. اوكي الآن في عنا unless. We can use unless instead of if not with if clause type 1 type 2 or type 3. انتوا type 3 مش مطالبين فيه. فأنا هون شو بحكي لك unless is similar in meaning of if not and can be used instead of if not in certain types of conditional sentences like if or unless is followed by a present tense, past tense or past perfect tense. But يا شباب we cannot use unless with a question. هاي الشغلة وراح هسه أتطرق لها بالتفصيل. We cannot use unless with a question. We can use unless instead of if not. يعني أنا باجي بحكي لك يا شباب I will go out unless it rains. That means I will go out if it doesn't rain. Okay? Another example. You will not gain high score in IELTS exam unless you learn English every day. That means you will not gain high score in IELTS exam if you don't learn English every day. فأنا يا شباب instead of unless هي you will not gain high score in IELTS exam. The sentence begins with the main clause. هي الإف clause عندي هنا إجت بالوسط. If you instead of unless we put don't learn English every day. هاي شرحت لكم إياها بالتفصيل بالفصل الأول بس أنا حبيت أرجع أتطرق لها لأنها تنطبق على الإف clause type 2 تنطبق على الإف clause type 1 والتايب 3. طيب على التايب 2 شوف لي هذا المثال يا شباب. بحكي لك he wouldn't be late هي after would just we add not for the train unless he forgot his luggage. That means he wouldn't be late for the train if he didn't. فأنا يا شباب instead of unless I put if didn't forget his luggage لأنه أنا بالإف clause type 2 with the if clause part you have to use didn't to change sentence from affirmative into negative. يعني أنا بالإف clause type 2 عشان أحول الجملة من مثبت لنفي بجزء الإف clause بستخدم didn't. اوكي يا شباب. طيب الآن يا شباب الليت ادفايس اللي أنا حكيت عنها عشان تكون واضحة. هنا بحكي لك you should change your plane. Okay, you should change. I'm sorry يا شباب. You should change your plan. Okay, not plane. Plan. Okay. فباجي أنا بحكي لك بدي أقدم لك نصيحة ليت أدفايس. بحكي لك if I were you لو أنا كنت مكانك I would change my plan. Okay. Now يا شباب هاي الملاحظة اللي أنا حكيت لكم عنها الثانية. We cannot use unless in questions. We cannot use unless in a question. يعني what will you do if you don't pass this final exam? We cannot say what will you do unless you pass this final exam. Okay يا شباب. إذا we cannot use unless with a question. مع السؤال أنا ما بقدر أستخدم unless يا شباب. unless we use unless instead of if not يعني if don't, if doesn't, if didn't. Okay. Now يا شباب even if or if. I told you in the first semester that we can use even if as long as or provided that instead of if clause we can use unless instead of if not. We can use when instead of if with if clause type 0. and even if or if. When do we use even if and when do we use if? You know when do we use if. even if يا شباب means in Arabic حتى لو. فلذلك بدي تعرف إنه even if gives the idea that a particular condition doesn't matter, the result won't change. Well, even if is followed by unexpected results. Okay, for example, I have decided to go swimming tomorrow. فبحكي لك even if the weather is so cold, I'm going to go swimming. يعني حتى لو الطقس كان بارد I'm going to go swimming. اوكي هذا بالنسبة للإيفن if. أنا لكن شوف لي هون مع الإف بحكي لك if the weather is cold I'm not going to go swimming tomorrow. That means I'm going to go swimming tomorrow if the weather doesn't cold. So the result will change. يعني ممكن أنا أجي أحكي if the weather isn't cold I am going to go swimming tomorrow. اوكي يا شباب برجع بأكد على هاي الملاحظة even if is followed by unexpected results. كيف يا شباب؟ أنا بحكي لك even if Mary studies hard she won't pass the exam. لكن يا شباب if you want to use if instead of even if لو بدك تحكي if Mary studies hard تحكي she will pass the exam. اوكي يا شباب even if ما بتتغير النتيجة. هون بتحكي حتى لو ماري درست بجد هي ما راح تنجح أو ما راح تجتاز الاختبار. اوكي يا شباب Thank you يا شباب for listening to me. If you have any question about if clause type 2 you can ask me. Goodbye.